In just a moment, enjoy Best Plays. But first, a reminder that this week a group of your friends reached their 21st birthday. You visit with them each weekday over this station. We mean the Barbers of one man's family. Yes, for 21 years you've been sharing the happiness and tribulations of this lovable family circle, and you can continue to join them Monday through Friday. You'll also enjoy your other weekday favorites, of course, Bob Hope, Dave Garroway, The News of the World, and John Cameron Swayze. But now, it's Best Plays on NBC.
From New York, where the American stage begins, NBC presents Best Plays, transcribed with John Chapman. Best Plays, a series of hour-length dramas selected from the outstanding successes of the New York stage. Now, John Chapman, drama critic of the New York Daily News, is here to introduce Judith Evelyn and Paul McGrath in Susan and God by Rachel Cruthers. Mr. Chapman.
Good evening. Rachel Cruthers, who wrote Susan and God, may know more about women and their husbands than any other playwright. Certainly, she knows how to put them on a stage, look at them, and look deeply into them, as witness such works as Let Us Be Gay, As Husbands Go, and When Ladies Meet. Susan and God was one of the best plays of the season of 1937-1938, with Gertrude Lawrence in the role of Susan Trexel, a woman with a problem husband. All husbands are problems, of course, but in plays by Rachel Cruthers, there is something special. In the role of Susan's husband in the first Broadway production was Paul McGrath, and he is playing the same role tonight. Our Susan is Judith Evelyn, a skilled and versatile actress who has starred in our Best Plays broadcasts of Angel Street and Craig's Wife. The time of our play is the present. In her stage directions, Miss Cruthers identifies the scene as simply a house in the country. But her characters definitely belong to the horsey set of the country around New York. The house belongs to Irene Burroughs, a young matron separated from her husband, and with Irene at the moment is Mike O'Hara, the man she plans to marry when her divorce is final.
Now, remember what I told you, Mike. When Susan gets here, be careful.
Careful? Why should we be careful about Susan?
Remember what she said when she went away? I'll bet when I get back you'll have left Tom for Mike. That's what she said.
It's uncanny how that woman reads people's minds.
Susan's sixth sense is nothing but an inordinate interest in other people's divorces, because she refuses to face the fact that she ought to have divorced Barry Trexel ages ago.
Oh, they do have a child, you know.
Blossom? She'd be better off if they did get a divorce. What do? Close the house, shunt her off to boarding school in the winter, and then to camp in the summer? And Mummy gallivants around the Riviera, and Daddy stays good and drunk in New York.
I don't think we should pass moral judgments on Susan and Barry.
You're right, of course. But I consider myself much more married to you right now than I ever did to Fred or Tom. And I refuse to give Susan the satisfaction of...
Why don't you beat her to the draw and say the moment she comes in, you win, Susan? Then what can she say?
No, Mike. I'll tell Susan when I'm ready to.
But I don't see why...
Shh, hush up. I see our house guest coming up from the tennis court.
Clyde looks unhappy about something.
Oh, dear, I did so hope that he and Charlotte might hit it off.
Irene. Hi, Mike.
How'd the game go, Charlotte?
Oh, terrible. Leonora and Clyde beat the pants off of Stubby and me.
Don't tell me you let that ham actor beat you, Stubby.
Well, I can't play tennis with a show-off like that. Why have you got him here, Irene?
That's not a polite thing to say to a hostess, darling. I don't know why Stubby persists in hating the poor old theater when I gave it all up just to marry him.
You don't seem to have given up theater people.
That's not true, Stubbs. I was the only theater people in Leonora's life, and she definitely gave me up when she married you.
You see, darling? Now apologize to Clyde.
I'm sorry, I guess I was just off my game today.
Well, Irene, what about the fabulous Susan? Where is she?
Yes, don't tell us the lady isn't coming after all.
I don't know where she is. She's changed her mind 3 times now. First, she was going to stop at the school and pick up Blossom. And then she was
Blossom?
Susan's daughter.
Poor kid. She's at the terribly unattractive age. Susan is going to die when she sees her. Oh, by the way, Barry may show up. If any of you answers the phone, don't tell him Susan is coming here.
This is getting more and more mysterious.
I'm sorry, Leonora. We're discussing intimate friends that you've never met.
But I'm ever so intrigued. Stubby's talked so much about them. Susan especially.
Well, what's the matter with them?
Nothing. Only they're both a little too delightful.
Barry's trouble is too much money and never had to work for it.
Gee, that's tough.
What about Susan?
Too much charm. Life has never disciplined her at all. She's the most intelligent fool I've ever met.
I begin to understand why her husband drinks.
I've never been sure whether Barry drinks because Susan's tired of him or Susan's tired of him because he drinks.
Well, she wouldn't be tired of him if he weren't so much in love with her. He's a perfect idiot about Susan.
But, Charlotte, he does drink like a fish, and no woman could stand it. You can't blame Susan for being tired of it and staying away so long.
Well, Susan gets tired of everything. When Blossom was a baby, there never was another baby. Now she's bored stiff with her. And poor Clyde must be bored to tears with all this talk of somebody he doesn't know.
Oh.
Come on, Clyde, I'll show you the pool. You look as if you're dying for a cold
Thank you.
Yes, you do.
Maybe those two will get together after all.
I doubt it.
Why?
Because if Charlotte ever gave a hoot for any man, it's Barry Trexel.
Maybe that's why she's so hard on Susan.
Hello, hello.
She's here.
Susan.
It must be.
Darlings, you darlings, you darlings.
Susan.
Irene, darling, this is too wonderful, isn't
Oh,
it?
Susan, I'm so glad to see you.
How perfect you look, but you always do. Stubby, darling. How marvelous.
Not next.
Michael, my sweet.
Right on the mouth and nothing wiped off.
Mike, you have got away with you. How nice. And you angel. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know you, do I? But I'm so glad to see anybody.
This is Leonora, Susan. Leonora Stubbs.
In other words, my wife.
Stubby, your first wife. How wonderful. How do you do, Leonora?
Hello, Susan.
And Stubby was such a bachelor. I can quite see how you did it. She's marvelous, Stubby.
Thank you.
Well, I never saw you looking better, Susan. You must have been having the time of your life.
No, it isn't that. I mean not the kind of time you mean, Stubby, dear.
Susan! Hello!
Charlotte, darling, are you here? How heavenly.
Oh, you look the way we're supposed to look when we come from Paris, but nobody ever does.
Oh, do you like me? Oh, how sweet it is to be here. Now, tell me everything. What's happened and what have you been doing, Charlotte? You know,
Well,
I have had the most wonderful experience in my whole life.
Well, tell us about it, darling.
Well, you know, I didn't mean to go to England at all.
England?
But I met Lady Wiggum on the Riviera, and we got awfully keen about each other. And when she asked me to go home with her, I thought that I might just as well sail. You know, she is one of the rarest creatures I've ever known.
What's so rare about her?
To begin with, she's one of the most distinguished women in England, and she has the most gorgeously magnificent palace in Kent, to say nothing at all of the others. But, of course, that isn't it.
That isn't why you're so keen about it.
No, not at all. It's her soul that's developed to such marvelous... For instance, you know, the first night that I was there, the house was filled with people. I didn't know anybody, and I didn't particularly want to, and they didn't either. And then Lady Wiggum herself floated in, and we all loved each other in a minute.
What do you mean, Susan? Is she religious or something?
Oh, honey, it's much more than that. I mean, it's new, it's fresh, and it's so practical. That's why it appeals to me.
What appeals to you?
Lady Wiggum's... Well, it isn't hers, of course. It's anybody. It's everybody's. But she began the movement.
What, movement? Oh, if there's one thing I thought you'd never be guilty of, Susan, it's joining a movement.
But that's why it's so wonderful. You will see, I can't even talk about it yet. But you can ask me questions because I want to give. I want to give all I can to all of you.
Well, what is it if it isn't a religion?
Well, it is in a way, but you can just keep right on being what you are. It's just love for other people, not yourself.
Oh, the good old golden rule.
What is the golden rule exactly, Mike?
Didn't you ever go to Sunday school?
No, I was such a sensitive child, they didn't make me. But that's why this is so wonderful. There isn't anything difficult about it. That's why so many intelligent and thinking people are interested in it. Who's that young man standing in the doorway?
Oh, Clyde, come on in. Susan, this is Clyde Rochester, Mrs. Trexel.
Oh, how do you do, Clyde? You know, we all called each other by our first names at Lady Wiggum's. Lord Ramsdale's chauffeur called him Tom. It was too sweet.
Well, then, how do you do, Susan? You don't remember me, but I had the pleasure of meeting you when I was playing at Newport 2 seasons ago.
Of course. course. I remember you perfectly. You say you're an actor.
Sure.
Well, there was an actor at Lady Wiggum's, too. You know, literally anybody. And the Duchess of Keating said this is a great experience, coming into spiritual contact with people we never knew existed.
Well, as long as she kept it spiritual.
That's the whole point, you know. You open your heart, your soul, rather, to people. And, for instance, I had the most thrilling and inspiring talks with one of Lady Wiggum's gardeners. You know, he told me one morning in one of the marvelous tulip beds that he used to hate his wife, so he got all ready to kill her one night with a gun actually in his hand.
Don't tell me he didn't do it.
No, the gun didn't go off somehow. But he knew afterwards, after Lady Wiggum had brought him into the movement, he knew it was the hand of God that stopped him. And now he actually likes his wife very much indeed. I know. You can't believe it because I'm saying it. But you will see how changed I am. Now, tell me about yourselves. Do you have your divorce yet, Irene?
Next month.
Oh, that'll be awfully nice for you, Mike. But you know, I expect this will just wipe divorce right out of the world.
What will?
Lady Wiggum's movement.
Oh.
When there are enough of us and you can't stop it, it's marching on like a glorious army.
Daddy?
Yes, dear?
Why is Mummy staying here at Aunt Irene's? Why doesn't she stay at our house?
I told you, Blossom, our house is closed.
Yes.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Is Mrs. Burroughs about?
She went up to change for dinner. They all did, in fact.
Oh, I see. Can you tell me if Mrs. Trexel has arrived?
Well, gee whiz, I'm sorry. I'm a stranger here myself.
Oh, one of those. I'm Barry Trexel. My wife is expected.
Oh, really?
This is my daughter, Blossom.
Oh, how do you do?
How do you do?
My name is Clyde Rochester, Mr. Trexel. Well, won't you step inside?
Thanks. Clyde Rochester. I knew I'd seen you before. You've given me many a good laugh in the theater.
Oh, thank you for those very kind words. Now, can I give you a little something? Whiskey or,
No, thanks very much.
You'd rather have information than a drink.
Well, it's about 50-50.
Well, I'll see if I can dig up somebody who does know something, huh? Make yourselves comfortable.
Thank you.
Daddy?
Yes?
Of course Mother's here. Isn't she?
I should say it's highly probable.
Aren't you sure?
It's foolish to be quite sure of other people, my dear.
If she isn't here, where is she?
If she isn't here, she's thought of a better place.
Maybe she did go on to school for me after all. Maybe I oughtn't to have come away.
Well, I thought that was what you wanted to do.
Yes. But now that I've come away, I don't mind going back.
What?
All the other girls were leaving. I didn't want them to think I hadn't any place to go. I suppose that sounds silly to you.
No, we all like to have someplace to go. At least we like people to think we have. That's almost more important than going, isn't it?
Yes, it is. When you didn't come to the last day exercises yesterday, I said you were sick, or they'd have thought I didn't have anybody to come.
Oh, I'm sorry, Blossom. I meant to get there.
What's the matter?
Nothing. Look, if by any chance your mother hasn't got here yet, Blossom, Irene will put you up for tonight, and I'll go back to town.
You want to go back to town because you're stuck with me?
No, not at all. Well, it's very nice to be with you. If you don't mind, I don't.
We've been together 4 hours. You're bored to death.
Nonsense. 4 hours isn't very long.
It's the longest I've ever been with you. Why doesn't somebody come, I wonder? Can't we ring a bell or
Blossom,
something?
Suppose your mother isn't here.
Well, what?
I'll tell you what. You come to town with me for tonight. We'll have dinner at some nice place, and we'll see a show. Wouldn't you like that? We might even buy a hat or something. Well, what's the matter?
It's this darn brace on my teeth. It slips once in a while.
Oh, are braces a feature in that school? Do they all wear them?
Oh, Dad, you fool. Oh, I should have stayed there.
Well, why, Blossom? After all, why should you?
Because there isn't any other place for me to stay.
Look here. If you don't want to go to New York with me, how would you like to go over to our place for tonight?
You said the house is closed.
Well, the gardener and his wife are there. They might invite us in. They seem like kind people.
Oh, Could we? Could we do that?
I don't know why not.
Well, that'd be wonderful. I'd rather be there than any place in the world. Wouldn't you, Dad?
Just about.
Oh, if we could be there together till it's time to go to camp, I wouldn't mind the camp so much.
Bless I thought you liked it at camp.
Why did you think that?
Oh, I don't know. It's a nice, healthy place.
If I get any more healthy, I'll die. Oh, Dad, would you mind asking Mother to let me?
Now, she'd be more likely to do it if you asked her.
No, she wouldn't. She'd say it's only such a little while, it wouldn't be worth opening the house.
I'm sorry, Blossom, but I'm not much good at telling her what I want.
Why can't we all be together once in a while? Why can't we be some sort of a family like other people? Why can't we? Why can't we?
I don't know. I didn't know you felt this way. I expect it's all my fault.
You're all right. I mean, now you are. Why can't you be this way all the time?
Seems simple enough, doesn't it? But somehow what we mean to be and what we are quite different.
Beg pardon, sir.
Oh, yes.
Mrs. Burroughs says she is extremely sorry not to see you, but she's in the bath.
Well, say I'm extremely sorry not to see her.
Yes, sir.
And Mrs. Trexel, is she also in the bath?
Madam says Mrs. Trexel is expected tomorrow.
I see.
Well, then she did go to school.
I don't think so, Blossom.
Maybe she had an accident or something.
Well, if she had, it's a nice accident. Give my regards to Mrs. Burroughs and say I'll try again tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
But, Dad, aren't you sort of worried? She might be lying in a ditch somewhere.
Well, if your mother is lying in a ditch, you may be sure she picked it out, and it's a perfectly good ditch.
Oh, Leeds.
Yes, madam.
Did Mr. Trexel say where he and his daughter would be staying tonight?
He didn't mention it to me, madam.
Very well.
Yes, madam.
He didn't mention it to me, madam, either.
You were a darling to answer the door, Clyde. You understand how difficult it would be for one of us to lie to him.
It wasn't easy for me. I felt very sorry for him.
I'm worried about his being out with that child. Are you sure he was perfectly sober?
Absolutely. There'll be a large-sized row when he finds out what you did to him, Irene.
But he won't find out, Mike, not if you all keep still.
I feel guilty as the dickens about the whole thing.
My conscience is perfectly clear. By putting off Barry, we're having a peaceful evening.
Stubby doesn't think it's so peaceful. Susan has him cornered on the terrace. She told him if he isn't God-conscious, he's no better than an animal.
Well, I'm sure I did the right thing. If Barry were here, Susan couldn't be saving us all. Coming outside, Mike?
Yep, sure. Susan hasn't tackled me yet.
I think I'll join the parade. Oh, Clyde.
Yes, Charlotte?
You and Leonora had better watch your step. Susan's got her eye on you, and I think she suspects the worst.
How about you? Can you throw that stone?
I'm going to keep on throwing it till Susan finds me out.
Hello? Anybody home? Susan. Where's Susan?
Barry. Oh, for heaven's sake, stop bellowing at the top of your lungs.
Charlotte, good old
Oh,
Charlotte.
why did you have to come back here
Got
tonight?
to see Susan. I brought these flowers. Peonies she likes. She's here, isn't she, Charlotte? They lied to me, but you wouldn't lie to me, would you, Charlotte?
She's here, Barry.
Where?
Out on the terrace. Shall I take you to her?
No, you bring her in here, will you? I don't want to see her with a lot of people. I've got something very important to say to her.
Oh, Barry, if it's so important, then you want to be prepared and clear-headed.
I'm prepared, all right.
Wait till morning when you're fresh and right on your toes.
I'm on my toes.
Oh, now, don't be a fool, Barry. You know I know your type.
I thought you were my friend, Charlotte.
I am. That's why I'm telling you. Now, come on, and I'll drive you home.
No.
We'll sneak out the side door, and she won't even know you were here.
No, Charlotte, it's got to be done now. If I don't...
You'll only ball it up.
I'm going to face Susan tonight. You hear me, Charlotte? There's something she's got to do right away.
Well, what's all the commotion in here?
Hello, Mike.
Barry, good to see you.
Well, it's good to see you. We're all giving me the runaround, even Charlotte here. Look at me, Mike. You know I'm cold sober.
You're too sober. That's what's the matter with you. What you need is a good stiff drink.
Mike.
I know what I'm doing. Come on in the library, old man.
All
I
right.
got some brandy I've been saving.
You're a man, Mike. I knew you'd understand.
Where's Mike, Charlotte? I thought he came in here.
He did. Now listen, Irene, Barry's here again, drunk this time.
Oh.
And Mike's off plying him with brandy.
Good. One more drink and he'll probably forget all about Susan.
I don't know which is the worse, Barry's drinking or Susan's spiritual intoxication.
I have an idea for shutting her up, too.
You do? Oh, then tell me quickly.
Well, you know how she's been after all of us to confess, as she calls it?
Uh-huh.
Well, as soon as we can get everybody together in one room, Mike is going to throw a big confession scene. You know, he killed a man or stole $1 million, something like that.
Well, I think that'd be sort of mean.
Nonsense. She's got it coming to her. She ought to clean up her own life before she begins preaching to other people.
Well, that settles that for the time being.
What?
Where's Barry?
Well, after he downed a hooker of brandy, I persuaded him to relax for a few minutes to clear his head. He's sleeping like a baby.
Good. Now go and get everybody together. Tell Stubby to keep Susan outside till we get all our signals straight.
You're really going through with this phony confession scene?
Why not?
Oh, if she's really sincere... Irene, does she believe what she's saying?
Believe it? She doesn't even know what she's saying. Now then, does everybody understand what we're trying to do?
Yes. Mike is going to spring the confession, but what do we do?
We all have to act.
Well, I can't act unless I rehearse.
How about me writing a few lines?
No. Just make it up as you go. And when I begin, try to stop me so I'll have something to act up to, see?
Well, what do I say?
If you say, no, Mike, don't do it. I can't bear it.
No, Mike.
You better give her a cue, Mike.
All right, when I say...
Out in here. Oh, they're in here, Stubby. Oh, my dears, what an evening this has been. Clyde has agreed to keep his love for Leonora on a higher plane, and Stubby has just agreed to be big about it, haven't you, Stubby?
That's right.
2 souls opened up for me. You don't know the peace and the sweetness that I feel now, and you all could if you would.
But it's not easy, Susan.
But try, dear, try.
Susan, I'm awfully impressed with the things you've been saying.
Oh, are you, Mike?
In fact, well, something has been gnawing at my soul for a long time.
My darling, how wonderful.
Don't lose your head, Mike. You may regret what you're saying all your life.
Oh, but Clyde, please, go on, Mike.
Why should you drag out something from the past that's gone?
Because if I had the courage...
Don't be a fool, Mike.
No, Mike. I can't bear it.
These people can never forgive me. They won't understand, Susan.
That doesn't matter. I will. Go on, dear.
I don't think I can.
Oh, you must, Mike, you must. Don't kill this impulse. Let it come. You'll be sorry if you don't.
I've done a horrible thing.
Then ask God to help you, no matter what we are or what we do. If we're sorry really and honestly want his help, we can be made over.
If you believe what you just said, Susan, I believe it too.
Barry!
Do you mean he can do something about me if I ask him? If you do, I do ask him.
Oh, Barry, how could you?
Daddy?
Hello, Blasi. I forgot all about you out there in the car.
I waited such a long time. I thought something must have happened.
Something has happened.
Oh, don't, Barry, don't.
Your
please.
mother has just said something that changes the whole stinking, rotten world. I never knew you, Susan. You look like a shining angel. You've got stardust in your hair. I worship at your shrine.
Barry. Oh, my poor, poor darling.
In a moment, Act Two of Susan and God, starring Judith Evelyn and Paul McGrath. This is NBC, the national broadcasting company.
Bye-bye, Susan.
Mother,
Yes, dear?
are you just doing this to be nice to Dad and me? I can go back to camp if it's going to be hard for you.
Well, what makes you say that?
Because of last night. You see, I was with Dad all day, and he couldn't have been nicer, even when he started having the drinks.
Blossom.
Then, after dinner, all of a sudden, he got the way he was.
And I've always tried to keep this away from you, Blossom.
Isn't there anything that can be done?
Oh, Donna, don't you suppose I've done everything on earth I could? It's broken my heart. But I don't want it to break yours. Now you must stop thinking about it and be happy because, you see, my dear, you have to make yourself happy. You can't expect anybody else to do it. You'll just have to learn not to expect anything of anybody but just what they are. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Of course.
Well, now skip along and get dressed. We won't talk about it any... Blossom.
Yes, Mummy?
Must you wear those glasses all the time?
Not all the time.
Well, then the time that you don't wear them will be when you're with me. Let's see how you look without them. Well, your eyes are good. Now, you must learn to make the best of what you've got. You surely don't have to have that brace on your teeth all the time.
Oh, yes, I do. Dr. Ray says unless...
Oh, well, I shall tell Dr. Ray that I don't believe in it for the daytime. All night is enough for anything on earth. If you're not going to be pretty, at least we must make you interesting. It gets a woman farther in the long run. If I had some scissors, I'd try something with that hair.
Mother, Dad said you said something last night that changes the whole world for him. What did you say?
Oh, it's something you wouldn't understand.
There's one thing I do know. I'm sure of it.
What?
When you think somebody doesn't love you, and then you find out they do, it does something wonderful to you. If that could only happen to Dad. Oh, Mummy, it's so wonderful being with you.
I tell you, Charlotte, fond as I am of Susan, I don't know whether I could have stood her in the house another single day.
Oh, you shouldn't let her get under your skin, Irene.
I'm not the only one. Stubby and Leonora aren't speaking to each other since Susan made Clyde confess his love for Leonora. Clyde is going around in a miserable ecstasy of renunciation. And Mike and I have had the worst row we've ever had.
Because of Susan.
She's convinced him that I'm living a lie for his sake, and he shouldn't see me again till my divorce is final for my sake.
She even had me on the verge of a confession last night.
That you're crazy about Barry? She's known that for years. Instead of feeling guilty about it, why don't you grab him?
Simple. He still loves her.
Why? I can't for the life of me see... We better shut up. Here comes Blossom Girl.
Hello, Aunt Irene. Hello, Charlotte.
Oh, hi.
Has Father come back yet?
Back from where?
From our house. He went over to tell the caretaker we're coming home.
You've seen your father this morning?
Yes. He and I were in Mother's room, and she was making the loveliest plans. May I have a car, Aunt Irene?
A car?
I can drive, please. Just so I can go over and see if he's there.
No, I won't let you. It isn't your business to do this, Blossom.
I oughtn't to have let him go alone. Please let me, Aunt Irene.
Hold on, darling. Mike has already gone, and here he is back again.
Then you do think there's something wrong?
I didn't say any such thing. Mike, was he there?
He was there early this morning. He had breakfast there.
Then what did he do?
He said he was coming back here, and of course he will.
But he hasn't come. Oh, dear, here comes Mother. Please don't tell her where you've been.
Where are you going?
Down to the gate to look for him.
Hello. Well, where's Blossom off to in such a hurry?
Why, Susan, I think that she...
Has Barry come back yet? Is anything the matter?
Of course not.
Oh, there is. Tell me.
Well, there can't be anything wrong yet, Susan. He hasn't had time.
It's 11 o'clock in the morning. I know what you're thinking, and I don't want you to let him know that you've been thinking it. He needs faith all around him. He needs to know that we believe in him.
If you believe in him like that, Susan, it'll help him more than anything in the world.
I do believe in him. Of course I do.
Daddy's coming up the drive, Mother.
Now, look, all of you, will you let me see Barry alone, please?
Come along, Mike.
You come with me, Blossom.
He'll be all right, though. I'm sure he will.
Oh.
This time I bring the violets.
Barry.
I went... Oh. You thought I'd fallen down before I'd even started. Couldn't you trust me for even a few hours?
No, they all think you're drunk again, but I said I knew you weren't.
But you thought I was.
Well, where on earth have you been? Why didn't you come back when you said you would? What have you been doing?
Out at the village getting some food and supplies in for the house. Oh, Susan, were you hoping I'd come back drunk so you wouldn't even have to start off on our agreement? Is that it?
No, that isn't it. But I've been thinking, Barry, since our talk. I'm thinking a lot.
Oh?
If you did stop drinking, it would be wonderful. And I want you to with all my heart, Barry.
But it wouldn't make you want to live with me again.
We forgot something, Barry. You may not want to live with me.
That's not humanly possible.
You don't know me very well anymore, Barry. I've changed a great deal.
Have you?
What I want to say is this. Let's enter into this perfectly honestly. Whether I want to give you up or you want to give me up. And while we're going through this test, well, we're friends. We're good friends. Nothing more. Well?
Well, at least we know where we are, even if we don't know where we're going.
Mommy, where are you?
In here, Blossom.
Mommy, Aunt Irene is here.
I know. She phoned me from the station. Now run along. We may want to gossip.
All right, Mommy. She's in the breakfast room, Aunt Irene.
You told me that, you goose. Hello, Susan.
Irene, I never was so glad to see anybody in my life. Why didn't you send me a card or something? I didn't even know that you were going abroad until you'd gone.
I never expected to see you again as long as I live. I had a terrible fight with Mike, the final round, and cleared out the next day.
Oh, where did you go?
Norway.
Oh, how dreadful for you. Nothing but scenery. Where is Mike? I haven't seen him all summer.
I haven't seen him yet myself. I gave him up forever when I left, and I've come home to marry him. I know now that Mike's the answer to everything for me.
Just as I told you. Because you gave him up. You now love him in a finer way. It's beautiful. Oh, I'm proud of you, Irene.
What about you? How's Barry?
He's been splendid.
Not drinking?
Not once, not a drop.
Oh, Susan, that's too good to be true. I didn't think you'd last 2 weeks on the job. It's been 3 months.
It's been a miracle.
Has your belief made you do this for Barry?
I couldn't have done it without my belief. It's sustained me. But don't think it hasn't been a hard job, too.
Of course it has.
Both of them, Barry and Blossom. You know, at first I thought I simply couldn't stand it, Irene.
I know.
But you know, there's something awfully queer about it. The more I do for them, the better I like them. Blossom's the sweetest thing that you have, but it's been awful. Do you think I've had any parties? Not one. The house filled with youngsters from morning to night. They wear my clothes, they use my best writing paper. There's a party going on in the drawing room right now, and I'm exiled here. In fact, oh, now what? Yes, dear?
Mommy, we've run out of sandwiches. Bronson says there's nothing in the house to make anymore unless he takes the caviar you like.
I haven't heard anything about what I like for so long it staggers me. All right, take it.
You're a peach, Mom.
Go away, you're hot and sticky.
Ouch.
Yes, well, it's coming off a bit by bit, isn't it?
No wonder.
Hold in your stomach.
Yes'm. Goodbye now.
Just as I get her poked in one spot, she pops out in another.
Oh, Susan, I'm so glad you and Barry are together again.
Yes, we're together again, but it's an entirely spiritual relationship, Irene.
But Susan...
Yes, that was our agreement. The summer was to be a test for both of us.
Oh, careful, he'll get another girl.
I hope so.
What?
I hope it's Charlotte.
Charlotte?
She's in love with him.
Well, I know, but...
And that's why it's so perfect. She's been so useful. She plays golf with him when there isn't anybody else. They're out now.
Susan, what are you up to now?
I've only changed once, Irene. That's when...
When you joined Lady Wigham's movement.
Exactly. It's enabled me to save Barry, and now I want to make him happy. He's a darling. He's a perfect darling. But I've outgrown him, but Charlotte never will, of course.
All of which must mean that you're in love with someone else.
No, Irene, you don't understand. This goes beyond all that.
Susan, what do you want out of life?
Well, all I know is that I can never go back to being an ordinary woman again. Lady Wiggum says I have a very rare power. And this summer has been wonderful for me. It's prepared me for bigger and wider. You know, the meeting at Newport is going to be brilliant. Heaps of important Americans and English titles, and Lady Wiggum herself is coming over.
What's all that got to do with you?
Well, I've helped organize it. Look at the stack of letters.
You mean you've become a sort of high priestess for this cult?
It's not a cult, Irene. It's
a movement. Sorry. And what exactly qualifies you for this tremendous responsibility, Susan?
Well, it all began with Mike's confession that night at your house. That was the first time I knew that I had this tremendous spiritual power.
Susan, didn't anyone ever tell you about that confession that night?
I only know the results. Leonora gave up Stubby and his money and has gone back to the theater and hasn't got a job yet and respects herself. And Clyde has sublimated his love for Leonora, and you love Mike on a higher plane. Oh, look here. This is Lady Wiggum's last letter to me. Read it.
Dear brave spirit, you have a very rare power. God is working through you to reach thousands of souls. You mustn't limit it to one man and one child.
Irene!
Oh, hello, Charlotte. Hello, Barry.
Welcome home. Oh, how grand you look.
Good to see you, Irene. Hello, dear.
Oh, sweet. Doesn't Barry look fine, Irene?
Splendid.
Pretty fit, huh? You too.
And isn't Charlotte looking handsome and happy? I envy a woman who can look so smart in such tweedy tweeds. Don't you, Irene?
I never saw her looking so well.
Hey, something's wrong. You two bozos are too enthusiastic.
Hey, you should have seen Charlotte hole a 17-foot putt today.
And miss a 1-footer. Where have you been, Irene?
She's been sitting on a fjord all summer.
On a what?
You know, one of those things in Ibsen plays.
Well, I haven't even been home yet. I must run.
So soon?
We're all neighbors still. I'll see you soon.
It's awfully nice to have you back, Irene.
Bye, dear.
Yes, isn't it? And what good news about your golf, Charlotte?
Yes, if she's as good tomorrow as she was today, we'll win easily.
Oh, I won't be. I always fall down when I ought to make the shot of my life.
That's just what you don't do. You're the best stander-upper I know.
Well, as I'm still on my feet, I better hop it. It's nearly 7 o'clock.
Oh, no, you mustn't go, Charlotte. You've got to stay and have dinner and play backgammon with Barry, because I must get this mess straight by morning. And this stack of paper is invitations for Blossom's birthday party.
The Newport stack looks a little hectic, too. But I'm afraid I must go home, Susan. There's nobody there. My dogs must be fed.
Oh, I'll take you
no,
out to-
don't walk me out, Barry. I'll see you at 3 tomorrow on the first tee.
All right, night, Charlotte.
Nighty-night. Something's happened to Charlotte. Haven't you noticed, Barry?
What?
Oh, lately, she has real charm.
She's got more than that.
What?
Character.
Oh, that. I mean, the real thing, those sexy charm.
Well, she always did have. I don't know why somebody hasn't married her.
Well, Charlotte's the type that men fall in love with when they're older and more intelligent.
Unfortunately, intelligence has nothing to do with love at any age.
Meaning that's why you fell in love with me?
Well, that's one of the reasons.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I was only joking, Susan.
But I'm sorry you were, because...
Because what?
Well, the summer's nearly over, dear. Blossom goes back to school in 3 weeks. Let's not put off till the last minute the things we have to say to each other.
All right. What have we got to say to each other?
You must have something very important to say to me.
Well, not a thing. Except, thank you.
It's marvelous what you've done, darling. Coming home so fit and sure. You are perfectly sure of yourself now, aren't you?
Oh, I guess so, thanks to you.
And Charlotte. She's helped, hasn't she?
You bet. She stands up there and swats that ball and pretends she'd rather play golf with me than anything going.
Oh, Barry, it's too sweet for me to have to tell you.
Well, tell me what?
But Charlotte's in love with you, dear.
Susan.
And I think that you're in love with her and you're afraid to tell me.
Wait. Let's leave Charlotte out of this. Susan, you mean the jig is up for you and me?
I wouldn't put it that way.
Well, how would you put it?
Well, we've done what we agreed to,
And drunk or sober, you're through with me.
That sounds horrid. I love you in a new way, spiritually, and I want you to be happy.
Thanks a lot.
Oh, Tony, can't we be adult about this? Can't we tell each other the truth honestly, as we said we would?
Well, sure we can. Have you any more truth to tell me?
No, dear, but I wanted you to know that you're free to do what you want to do, and I'm free to do what will fill up my life.
And what will fill up your life, Susan?
My work? Oh, Barry, I've reached a great understanding this summer. I'll go to Newport enriched because of it.
Susan, how long will you be in Newport?
A week.
Oh, gee, that's an awful slice out of Blossom's 3 remaining weeks of vacation. Couldn't you cut it a day or so?
Oh, certainly not. They need me all the time.
So does Blossom.
Don't you think it's more important to reach out to thousands of souls than it is to stay at home with one child?
It might be. Yes, you bet it might, but I can't kid myself into thinking that you've got a great message to take to anybody, Susan, and I'm darn sure you can make Blossom terrifically happy, and I think that's your job.
But I'll be back for her birthday party, Monday the 26th.
Saturday's the 26th.
And it can't be.
Well, look at the calendar. See for yourself.
But I can't be here on Saturday. I just can't.
Susan, there won't be any party for her without you.
Why not? I've given up my entire summer. Saturday is my night. It's the night I lead the meeting.
What are you going to do?
Well, in my own humble little way, I'm going to tell the people there how I found God.
You mean you're going to talk about yourself?
Well, of course. That's its power, that telling the truth about ourselves.
Exactly what are you going to tell?
Well, I'm going to tell them what you've gone through and how gloriously it's turned out.
Susan.
All sorts of people will be there, important people, influential people, people who know us and who know all about us. If I tell them what's happened to you, they'll have to believe
You
it.
can't do that, Susan.
Why not?
What's happened to me, to us, isn't anybody's business but our own.
You're trying to stop my work, God's work.
I don't think you know anything about God, Susan, and it's colossal nerve for you to stand up and talk to people who do.
But how can you say that after what's happened to you?
What exactly has happened? Oh, I've held on this summer because I was fool enough to think it would get you back. Well, that's a flop. We've cracked up, Susan, and this time it's for keeps.
Blossom?
Yes, Mother?
Who was that on the phone? Was it your father?
No.
Who was it?
I called the same place again.
Listen, I told you not to. What did they say?
He says Father hasn't been there at all.
Of course he hasn't. That's the last place he'd go. And do stop this telephoning and making people think things. Try Charlotte's house again.
I just did.
But I told you not to. What did that maid of hers say this time?
Exactly the same thing she says every time. Father stopped for Charlotte at 11 o'clock yesterday morning to take her to lunch at House in the Woods.
They didn't go there.
But that's what Charlotte told Katie.
Did you ask what Charlotte took with her?
Nothing but her golf shoes.
She's lying.
I don't think so. She was crying. She thinks they've been killed.
Oh, nonsense. I wish I thought that. Your father's too good a driver. He drives brilliantly.
But he's so reckless when he...
Oh, but he wasn't. Now, he wasn't drinking. Don't say that again. I don't see why you should lose faith in him like that. Oh, it's so cold in here.
Shall I get you a shawl, Mother?
No, don't leave me. Stay here with me.
All right, Mother.
If your father had only waited a decent interval, I would have given in. I was prepared to make the supreme sacrifice of my life. But he was so strong. He told me I couldn't do it.
Was he right?
No, he wasn't right. But he was strong. I never saw him so strong. That's why I know he couldn't be drinking.
But what else could make him go off like this and not tell us?
Only one thing. Charlotte.
Charlotte wouldn't make him do that.
No, wouldn't she? Women do these things, dear.
But how could Father?
These things happen to men. Charlotte started it, of course, but...
What are you going to do?
I'll divorce him, of course. He's forced me to it.
Oh, Mother.
Now, darling, you'll just have to accept it, Blossom. After all, you've had the same father and mother longer than most people have.
I guess I have. Nearly every girl at school has only got one of them at a time. Not both together at once. And when you like both of them, it mixes things up so. I'll stay with you some, won't I, Mom?
But you'll be with me all the time. What do you mean?
But I'll have to be with Dad most.
Blossom, do you love him more than you do me?
No, Mother, but somebody will have to be with him.
But he'll have Charlotte.
I mean someone who belongs to him, who always has belonged from the beginning. Oh, Mother, why can't it be the way it was this summer? I thought everything was all right.
I liked this summer, too, dear. It's been sweet having you.
Wasn't Dad sweet, too?
Yes. No, but I've grown so, and your father isn't very intellectual.
Neither are you, Mom.
What?
You don't need to be. You get everything you want anyway.
That's not true. I give up all the time. I try to make things right for other people, and they go and change things. Now, look at this. I didn't plan this at all.
Oh, there's a car. I'll bet it's Dad. Dad, we... Oh, it's only you, Aunt Irene.
Well, don't look so crestfallen. Hello, Susan. Have you heard anything yet?
No. Have you?
Of course not. How could I?
You seem terribly excited. Blossom, dear, run along like a good girl.
All right, Mom. I'll be in my room if you want me.
Well, what have you decided by this time? Is he drunk or has he eloped with Charlotte?
Oh, it's Charlotte, of course.
You're getting just what you deserve, Susan.
What?
A dose of your own medicine. Busting up other people's lives.
Busting up? Oh, you of all people, Irene, after what I did for you and Mike.
Do you know exactly what you did? Mike is going to marry somebody else. And well, here am I.
Irene. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
If I hadn't been fool enough to go away. I was holding Mike in the only way he can be held.
But, darling,
I was a fool to let anything you said affect me. You don't know what's right for other people.
Oh, Irene, believe me, I was trying to help you.
Why haven't you helped yourself? I'm glad Barry did wake up. Charlotte will make a darn good wife for him.
But you know that you and Mike were wrong. You know it.
If you'd only let us alone, we'd have worked it out our own way. If you just...
Excuse me, the doorbell.
Hello, Susan.
Charlotte.
Barry's here, Susan. He's in the car. No, don't go running out. He wants to see you, but I asked if I could speak to you first.
Come in.
I think I'd better go, Susan.
No. I'd like you to hear what I have to say, Irene, if Susan doesn't mind.
No, why not? Couldn't matter less what you have to say, Charlotte.
Oh, yes, it could. If you knew the actual truth of why this happened, you'd be so ashamed.
I do know. You began the whole thing right here in my house, right before
Susan, why don't you let Charlotte say what she can
Well, what can she say? I know all about it. Do you deny that you're in love with Barry, do you?
No, I don't deny
And
it.
do you deny that you began it, that you meant from the beginning to get him, do you?
Yes, I deny that. It isn't true. But I'll tell you this, Susan. If you give him up now, I'll go after him. And I'll get him, if I can. Will you drive me home, Irene?
Of course. Now you know how I feel, Susan.
No. No, it's not the same thing, Irene. You weren't married to Mike, and you haven't got Blossom. You haven't had them both all summer. You haven't been here in this room alone, with them both adoring you and depending on you. You haven't felt strange, new, funny little minutes of peace that you never knew anything about before. That only comes after a long time of seeing it through.
You didn't know that till you lost him. Till another woman got him away from you.
No, I didn't. I didn't know anything. Life has come straight back to me. All the things I've been running away from are the only things I want now.
Life's come back at me, all right. Susan, I wasn't being fair a while ago. It wasn't what you said made me lose Mike. It's myself. The way I've lived.
Irene. Charlotte's waiting. Are you going to drive her home?
Yes, Barry, I am.
Why do you do it? Why don't you let Barry take her?
Good night, Susan. Good night, Barry.
My dear. Well, you going to ask me in, Susan?
It's your house, Barry. You certainly come and go as you like.
Not precisely, but let that pass. How much did Charlotte tell you?
She didn't need to tell me anything. She admits that she's in love with you.
Did she say that?
She did. And that she'll get you if she can. Well, if she hasn't got you now, darling, what more can she do?
Nothing. She was great.
I'm sure she was.
She evidently didn't tell you this, Susan. I was drunk when I stopped for her in the morning. I began the night before, after you and I had our fight. But Charlotte didn't hesitate to get in the car and drive off with me. When I'd finally drunk all even I could hold, we stopped at some little inn, and she stayed with me till I slept it off. And today she drove 300 miles to bring me back to you.
She was big, wasn't she?
She was.
She stood by you and saw you through. You slipped because I failed you.
Don't, please, Susan. I had nobody to blame but myself. And don't worry, dear. Everything will be all right for you, exactly as you want it. We'll get down to cases in the morning.
No, wait. I've something to tell you.
Yes?
You don't know how rotten I've been. This summer, at first, I hoped you would come home drunk. Put an end to our agreement.
I know. I know you did.
And then when you didn't, I began to be awfully pleased with myself and think that I was responsible.
Susan, don't try to buck
No,
me
I
up.
know you're tired of my selfishness, Barry. Tell me the absolute truth. Are you in love with Charlotte?
I'm very fond of Charlotte. If she wants to try to make a go of it with me, why not? I'm very grateful to her.
Then you're definitely not in love with her.
I like her, which is a great deal more important.
Oh. Barry, I want to be so much more to you than I've ever been before. Please let me try again.
Susan, I'm not worth it, you know that.
Dearest, I don't think that God is something out there somewhere. I think he's here, in us. And I don't believe that he helps one bit until we dig and dig and dig and get all the rottenness out of us. Barry, darling, hold me.
Susan, darling.
Oh, dear God, don't let me fall down again.
You have just heard the Best Plays production of Susan and God, starring Judith Evelyn and Paul McGrath. And here once more is your host, drama critic John Chapman.
Our Best Plays audience might like to join me in saying thanks. Thanks to Rachel Crothers for having written an absorbing and enduring play. And thanks to Judith Evelyn, Paul McGrath, and their fellow actors for an absorbing performance. We shall have another Best Play next week, and I am looking forward to it as another highlight of our series. It will be John Steinbeck's notable and exciting drama of Mice and Men, with Burgess Meredith and Anthony Quinn in the memorable roles of George and Lenny. This is Chapman saying goodbye until then.
Susan and God by Rachel Crothers was transcribed and adapted for radio by Robert Tallman. In the cast were Jane Webb as Blossom, Vera Allen in her original role as Irene, Stotts Cotsworth as Mike, Joan Tompkins as Lenora, Tony Randall as Clyde, John Seymour in his original role as Leeds, Lawson Zerby as Stubby, and Fran Carlin as Charlotte. Best Plays is an NBC production supervised by William Welch and directed by Edward King. Your announcer is Fred Covens.
Sundays, listen to Theater Guild on NBC.